Hey everybody, welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, and it's Thursday. You know what that means. We've got a sample from Hugh. We're going to give it a listen. It's a really well put together commercial, I think. We'll talk about what we like and some ideas on how we might improve upon it. And before we dive in, of course, if you'd like me to review audio of yours, just like this, there's a form in the description. Fill it out, send me something. Just make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss when the video comes out. I've had a couple folks be like, oh, dang, that video came out months ago and I missed it. So check in, I guess. And then if you'd like, there's coaching on my website if you don't want to wait. Let's dive in, Hugh. Let's see what's going on.
Dear Winter, we've had our moments together, like skiing and sledding and all that pickup shinny at the local rink. But now it's time for a new fling with spring. And the place to suit up for this warm weather romance is Urban Tack and Western Wear. Exciting spring arrivals, something for everyone. It's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Plus, Urban's has expanded yet again, so there's more than ever before. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Yeah. I mean, I just really like it. I dig it a lot. Things that I like, your read, I think, really matches this type of spot. At least the direction you take it, I really enjoy. In listening to it a couple times, I do see a couple other possibilities, but I really enjoy the way you went with it. And then as far as the structure of it, I love the design, the sound design on this first section in contrast with the latter half of it, how it is like a sort of breakup letter, and you've got all the nostalgia and the sound effects in the back, how we've got all these memories of the good times we had with winter, but now it's time for that bad boy spring. Let's go, spring. And I really like that concept, and I think you've executed it in a really fun and good way. So a couple ideas that I have. Firstly, in this first section mainly, this latter section, it still holds true a little bit, but I had an easier time with it. In this first section, I had a bit of difficulty really understanding what you were saying. Just straight up, I couldn't understand some of the words for a couple of listen-throughs. And part of the reason for that, I think, is firstly, a lot of the sound effects and the music behind it, to my ear and opinion, are directly competing with your voiceover in a lot of ways. And so I just released a video last week about how to make your own voiceover demo. And about 2/3 of the way through that longer video, I also chunked it out into smaller chapters, and I think it's chapter 4 or 5 or something, where I talk about how to engineer your voiceover with music. I would check those out because I go into detail on how to use sidechain compression as well as EQ techniques, and I do it in Reaper in that video, but it'll apply to any software you're using. I mean, it works in a lot of different softwares. Some may be a little bit more limited in that respect. So those would be two ideas for you: to use sidechain compression to just turn down the volume on some of the sound effects you've got in this first chapter, or use a bit of EQ to carve out some space. Additionally, you could try the types of sound effects you have here. It might be kind of difficult just to match up with the rate you're speaking, but sometimes you can find the gaps where you're not speaking, where there's a space between words or phrases, and you can have the majority of the sound effect. So for example, the children laughing, you could try to put those precisely in moments where you're not speaking so that it's not competing with your voiceover. Those are a couple ideas. And then my last idea in terms of balancing, particularly these sound effects, it won't work as well with the music in the latter half, but with the sound effects, in terms of sound design, if you think of the stereo image as a stage, so stereo, you've got two tracks here. You've got the left and the right. And so center is mono, that's center stage. And then as I pan my audio to the right, let me go to the big picture here. be on screen for this. So here's center stage, and mono, everything is equal between everything, and it's like center stage. Then if I pan everything hard right, it'll be over here and kind of out of the way, and same deal if I pan everything to the left side. So what you could do is, because most often, pretty much always, your voiceover, you're with one microphone and it should be resting in mono, you could take the sound effects and pan them to the side. So you could take the children laughing, have them over here. I believe the sled sound, it goes from, it looks like it goes from one side to the other. It's kind of like shh, which is great. It's good to have that sort of spatial thing, but you could sort of place like the writing memory is on the left side, and the sledding and children laughing memory is on the right side of your pan here. And what that'll do is sort of yield center stage to your voiceover and let everything else sort of be assisting you on the sides. In music production, I'm not an audio engineer by any stretch, but in music production, oftentimes they'll use that sort of thing to create space in some way, so you can pan things to the side, either all the way or just a little bit, but it all helps, the stereo imaging there. So that's the final idea in terms of balancing that. Additionally, I talk about this a bit as well with the voiceover demo video, but you could tweak the EQ on your voiceover to help give it some space and air over. I'm not necessarily talking about the air frequencies, which would be the higher frequencies, but you could EQ your voiceover a smidge to help give it space above the music and sound effects. So if I pull open this EQ, a couple just rough ideas. You could do a high shelf like this to boost the articulation and give it a bit more space. You could also, you do have a fairly low resonant voice, and I've talked about this in the past, but you could take a little bit of the mud out here. I don't hear a ton of it, but you've got it pretty heavily embedded in the music, so it's a little hard for me to specifically diagnose. And then there's another guy here on YouTube who uses Adobe Audition pretty extensively, and he does a lot of like radio promo stuff, somewhat similar to this ad, but not entirely. He does he does examples of the radio imaging, which is like, KWXP, this is the radio station, and they engineer that stuff really heavily, and he'll use a really aggressive high-pass filter like this on his voiceover. I don't like to do that with demo type stuff because that changes your voice so significantly. So it would kind of depend there on your end use case, but those are some ideas for you. And then just to add a bit of polish, here at the end of your ad, it just stops abruptly.
2 by Crossfield.
2 by Crossfield. And then it just kind of cuts off. Because it only ends at like 27 seconds, you could maybe extend that a little bit and add a fade of sorts. Yeah, maybe something like that.
Crossfield.
And give just a little bit more room after the crossfield, because I don't even hear the D, and I think it's crossfield. I don't know this town or place, but if it is a D or a T, then we want to hear that, especially because it's directing the audience where to go to check out this awesome springtime gear that's going to afford them the greatest fling of their lives. So you could maybe extend this a little bit longer, closer to 30 seconds, to give yourself just a little bit more leeway on the end there, and then add a bit of a fade, and that'll just give it a bit more polish, I think. But all in all, really, really solid work here, Hugh, and keep at it, my friend. Until the next one of these, everybody, I hope this was helpful for y'all, but be well, and I'll see you there. Toodles.